Hey everyone, and welcome to the Wrap Up Live. This is the official Raptors Republic Live post-game show where we recap, dissect, and we have some fun talking about the latest Raptors game. It's not just a post-game show; it's actually a podcast this year as well. So all of our podcast listeners, we hope you're listening to this either Sunday night, I guess if you're a fiend of the Toronto Raptors, or Monday morning on your commute to work, at home, whatever you're doing. I'm your host, Sahal Abdi, and this live show is normally produced by our show producer, Keon Haddad, but he is off tonight, so it's going to be me. But the good thing is, I'm not alone. I am with a very good friend of mine, my slander buddy, a guy that if you've ever listened to the William Liu show, whether it's on Sportsnet, back in the day, Yahoo, even further back, Raptors Republic. I'm here with my slander buddy, Asad, aka none other than Swar Lasers. Asad, what's up?
I'm good, man. How you doing tonight?
I'm good, man. So we're here to talk about the game, Asad, really quick. Toronto Raptors are defeated by the Bulls 115-98. That brings their preseason record to 2-2. And you know what? It's funny because I guess in this game it was a good one to watch because who doesn't want to watch a DeMar DeRozan return? Who doesn't want to watch, you know, all these Bulls come? Zach LaVine played as well. I mean, the Bulls are a fun team to watch. Lonzo Ball wasn't there. He's out with injury. He's going to be gone, I think, until the winter, January. But whenever DeRozan returns to Toronto, this is the first home game of the preseason so far. All eyes are on him. It was a pretty packed house for a preseason game as well, which is dope to see. Asad, what did you think? General takeaways really quick. Let's get into the game. General takeaways on this Bulls versus Raptors game. Maybe with the way it started, because Fred, man, he looked good early on.
Yeah, I think it was pretty obvious that the Raptor starters basically Nick Nurse said, "All right, I'm going to play you guys full tilt, and let's treat this as if it's going to be like a real NBA game, a real regular season game." They came out, and honestly, the first thing I noticed was the focus on pace. The starters were, anytime they got a rebound, anytime there was such an intent, get a rebound, look up for the pass, or push the ball right away. There's very little hesitating with getting that push started, getting across half with 20 seconds, 22 seconds still on the clock. That was like an intent thing that I noticed that was just across the board, especially in the first half. You noticed the pace was really up there. Fred VanVleet coming out the gate, hits his first three, looking good. I'll be honest, after the Boston game, I was a little bit worried.
So was I.
Because he wasn't moving that well. And I was like, why is he moving so like, not great. And then, our friend Oren, he replied, he told me that the Raptors apparently ran a really hectic practice earlier that day, which makes a little bit more sense why, so many of the shots are short and you've been seeing less fluid shooting. Today, though, they came out looking fresh. They came out pushing the pace. I think the Raptors starters, in general, whether shots were going in or not, it's preseason, so I don't really care much about that, to be honest. But the type of looks they were getting, the ball was moving, it wasn't sticking. They were getting into their offense. They were getting open shots. OG's getting open looks. Fred VanVleet's getting open catch and shoot shots over and over and over again from three. That was all really great to see from the starters. And then defensively, they were pressed up. They were moving well. They were communicating well. Obviously, there's still stuff that needs to be ironed out. But in terms of like getting ready for the regular season, that was a very impressive showing. And comparing it to what we remember game one of the regular season last year, where everything was a mess, the offense was a mess, the defense was a mess. Comparing it to that, definitely a much more focused and ready to go Raptors team we saw tonight.
Yeah, man. The thing that I think I was most impressed about is the starters finally looking like starters for me, at least. Yeah. Because when you watch that game in the beginning, early on, it seemed like the Raptors controlled the pace. They were pushing the pace, like you said. Fred looked so energetic. I tweeted about it. He looked like an Energizer bunny. Everything just looked smoother, crispier with the way he was moving, his rotations, the way he was going downhill, his switches defensively. Everything looked better for Fred VanVleet. And then his shot was falling as well. And Asad, more than anything, we're two kind of bigger guys trying to get back into shape. I didn't tell you, but this past Tuesday I went to a basketball run.
Yeah.
When I tell you my lungs were spent, this is a guy who hasn't played ball in 2 years plus. I was absolutely gone. So I'm giving, watching the last 3 Raptors games before this, I was giving the starters a little bit of leeway because I was like, you know what, these guys maybe haven't played basketball at this pace for quite some time. But now I'm looking at it like, okay, we're in the 4th preseason game now. It's the Bulls coming up. Something's got to give because against Boston, particularly Fred, like you mentioned, did not look good at all. And that's been a thing with Fred against Boston, no?
I think so, but also like I don't know, it just kind of like I find that the Celtics and the Raptors haven't had a good game where like I feel like every time they play, one side's missing a bunch of dudes or coming off injury or coming off some weird stretch or it's a back-to-back or something. I feel like we haven't had like an even strength matchup in a long time with the Celtics. So I don't want to make any assumptions like that. Realistically, Fred shouldn't have any trouble if he's hitting his shots. Again, what worried me more was how he was moving that game. Like he was catching, he was getting no separation on his drives. He wasn't even getting like a first step when he was like driving on someone closing out. So that worried me a little bit because he just didn't look as zippy. If you remember at the start of last season, one of the things that made Fred look so special, he looked very zippy in the half court. Like he was able to kind of cut through and slice through, break through doubles, break through traps, really able to like make things happen in the half court just with his movement, with his speed, right? Whether or not he's making layups or not, just how he's zipping through into little gaps. And we didn't see that in Boston. We didn't really see that in the first preseason game we played either. So tonight, though, you saw him moving with like purpose, moving with pace, and like those might not be like, stat type things. You're not going to see that on the stats, but that's what you kind of want to see from Fred VanVleet going into the season. Like, all right, this guy looks healthy again, looks good again. And again, like the type of threes that Fred was getting tonight, there was one stretch in the back half of the second quarter where like clearly the starters are starting to get tired because they all played like 20 minutes in the first half.
Yeah.
And Fred like clanked short or side rim on like 4 straight catch and shoot looks, which is just like, and look, I think 2 of them were like same possession. Like he missed the first one, they got the rebound, they got it back to him, same spot, he gets to take it again.
Yeah.
And like usually that happens regular season. He's nailing the first one, and if he doesn't nail the second one, he gets a second shot. It's like guaranteed to go in, right? And those are all short rim, side rim. So that's all conditioning to me. But those are great looks that the offense is generating, and I'm like, that's good. All right, like I'm looking at the starters, and they're generating good stuff, and that's what really gets you excited for this team moving forward.
Yeah, and this I said it was the thing that this is the reason why I mentioned. For 2 guys who haven't played basketball in quite a while, those first 2 runs you play are great. You know what I mean? Like it's not bad. The first one's not bad. You feel you've got your legs underneath you. Might I add really quickly in these first 2 runs, 2 game winners for me. The games were dead at 7. It was 5s, so it was good. But let me tell you, after those 2 games, I said my legs were gone. I was front rimming everything. It was bad. So this is the thing. This is why I mentioned this, because for Fred, I think, especially later in the year for the 2021 season, we saw a very tired and sluggish Fred. And I don't really blame Nick Nurse for that really at all, because Fred, he has such an importance to this team and the way this team runs, the way the systems run, the switching, everything. He has a massive role, and he's going to have a massive role this upcoming season as well. And I think a lot of it, like you said, just comes down to conditioning, not just for Fred, but for the starters. I think a lot of them look like they had tons of energy. Pascal, I mentioned on Twitter how, one of Pascal's best traits is his ability to attack downhill when the defense isn't set. When, you get into a half court setting, I still do think Pascal is one of the best advantage creators in the league. He forces defenses to clinch, and he almost always finds the open guy who on the first rotation defensively isn't really open, but when the ball starts swinging, you find that guy, whether it's at the corner, the 45, at the top. Pascal's great at that. But what he's even better at is when, and I mentioned, I think also you saw this tweet as well, how I feel like inherently Kyle Lowry has instilled this within Fred and Pascal. When you grab a rebound, they are running. They do not let you get set. Pascal's going downhill, and going downhill for Pascal, he's one of the best players, I think, in the league going downhill. He can hit you with a Euro spin, his patented spin that all non-Raptors fans go crazy about and claim that's his only move. When in reality, I genuinely think he has probably the best spin move in the league, if not, top 3. Such a hard move to guard. If you play pickup basketball a lot and there's a guy who has a really good spin move, I mean, good luck, because your momentum's going one way and he's going to throw the other way.
And the thing about Pascal's spin move is it would be more of a problem if he only spun one way. But he spins both ways. He
Yeah.
will stop and start and spin both ways and change his feet to change his angles. It's incredible the way he did it. Really, all he's doing is he keeps pushing downhill. It's almost like watching, like, you know, like a fourth quarter drive in an NFL game where it's just like you've got, like, you're just constantly pushing, right? Like you keep making the small pass, make that small rush, whatever it is. But really, like, one of my favorite things when I see Pascal Siakam grab a rebound, go down, is he's so good at taking that first bump, like at the 3-point line or just outside the 3-point line, turning around the guy, because usually the defender is just bumping and then tagging back to who they're supposed to guard, and then hitting the paint again, where he's just basically hits a second drive, right? And he keeps his momentum, everything's going, then he's able to chop the steps and go, right? And again, like, when we talk about the starters as a whole, whether it was Scotty catching the ball, looking up to pass it, OG catching like, there was a play, I think, third quarter, OG grabs a rebound and just, boom, instant off the rebound, whips it to Pascal at half court. The ball's over half at 22 seconds left on the clock. Like, that stuff where it's just like, if you can get your pace to that and you can play with that type of pace, with the way the Raptors are, they can keep attacking in semi-transition and get a lot of easy buckets, which will make up for some of the half-court issues they might have. I'm still a mite on any half-court issues because I do think that the starters, at least today, in the half-court, maybe the results weren't there on paper because they missed a lot of open threes. But the amount of open threes that OG and Fred got today in the half-court sets from the starters, it was incredible. Like, those are the looks that you're going to live with because those are your best shooters. Great stuff from them. I see somebody just commented Siakam was 3 for 6 on free throws. I'll be real with you. Like, I don't really care about Pascal's touch in the first couple games of anything he plays because this man is the most rhythm player I've ever seen. Whether it's he gets a break for the All-Star break or he sits a couple games out with injury, it takes him like a game or two just to get that touch back. And with free throws, again, a lot of it's touch. And usually what he does like a side rim, back rim out. So it's just like, all right, clearly, like, his fingers aren't there yet. I'm sure, like, 3-4 games in, he'll be fine. So will Pascal be ready to go out the gates? I don't know. But I can promise you by like the 4th or 5th game of the season, Pascal's going to be great. So I'm not too worried about any of that touch stuff.
Also, really quick, on the other side of the coin, there was a certain guy who returned to Toronto who's become like a folk hero of sort in this city. DeMar DeRozan returned. And whenever DeMar DeRozan comes back to Toronto, whether it's a preseason game, it could be anything. Honestly, at this point, as long as it's versus the Toronto Raptors, it doesn't even have to be in Toronto at this point. Toronto fans absolutely adore DeMar DeRozan. At least a vast majority of them do. DeMar's return, this guy, he's just a vintage scorer, man. Like, I watch this guy, and his ability to just manipulate defenders is, dare I say it, Kobe-like. Like, it's very scary how he can manipulate defenders. He got, I think it was Scotty Barnes on a little pump fake, and Scotty went up, and it wasn't even really, I wouldn't even consider it a pump fake. I said it was more like a little hesitation, just a little shoulder fake. And DeMar obviously is well known as one of the best mid-range shooters in the league. And Scotty just left his arm just barely just above his shoulder in that arm area. And DeMar DeRozan took advantage. He does that to every player in the league. What did you think about DeMar's return to Toronto? Were you happy to watch the guy?
Hey, DeMar's always fun to watch. Like, even when he was a Raptor, like, people used to say it's just not an aesthetically pleasing player, which is, I think, the most ridiculous thing to say about DeMar DeRozan.
Gosh, come
the
on.
man has always been, like, the way that he kind of cruises in between the lane and he'll, like, go fishing with the ball. It's amazing the way he cuts in and out of the mid-range. I personally love watching DeMar DeRozan play. I just think he's so smooth with his handle. And people can say whatever they want about DeMar, but the fact of the matter is he's like mastered his craft. He knows exactly what to do in his game. The fact of the matter is that he'll get a defender on his hip and he can pivot either way, and he has a move to go to get to his shot. And like, you see that now. It's just someone who's in complete mastery of like their element. And I have no complaints whenever it comes to watching DeMar DeRozan play. I enjoy him a lot. It was also fun seeing OG lock him down a couple of possessions and hit him with a pick six. And then DeMar got him back in the third quarter with a pick six himself. So it's fun. It's always fun to see a DeMar DeRozan matchup. And I just love the guy. Like, he's so much fun to watch play. And people can talk about him being a playoff fraud or whatever all that is. But I'll be real with you. I think DeMar is, as a basketball player, as good as it can get for what he is. Like, his 3-point shooting, whether it's there or not, doesn't matter. because he's just so good at all the other basketball things when it comes to the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, 100%. I think people have been so hyper-focused on what DeMar DeRozan cannot do in his career. And he's just proved to genuinely be one of the best scorers, I think, of this era, to be quite honest. And for a guy who has developed his game so well, we saw it in his final couple of years in Toronto, and then he moved over to San Antonio. He looked really good in San Antonio, finally ends up in Chicago. He's just a guy that I think Bulls fans are just so happy with. San Antonio fans loved him as well. Greg Popovich loved him in San Antonio. I love watching DeMar DeRozan. Do I love watching him score on the Toronto Raptors? Maybe not. Maybe not. I mean, sometimes, to be quite honest, I mean, the Chris Boucher dunk was pretty good. The mid-range jumpers over these guys are pretty damn good. But, DeMar DeRozan, you gotta give him his kudos for how he played. I think he had 21 points, if I'm not mistaken. He was a plus 12, 8 rebounds and 8 assists in just 27 minutes, 7 for 12 from the field. He shot 7 free throws, just your typical DeMar DeRozan performance. Did have 4 turnovers, but I mean, it is what it is at that point. DeMar was great. I loved him, and we're not going to go player by player for the Bulls because it is a preseason game and no Raptors fans trying to hear about 5 Bulls players in a row. For the Raptors side, you're watching this entire game from start to finish. Fred started off the game really hot. Then you had Gary Trent Jr. come in, light the second quarter on fire. And then in the second half, in typical preseason fashion, you see the Raptors go with their second string guys, their third string guys. I mean, you saw everybody.
I'll say one thing, like things slowed down, but I do think like part of it was just like, it's very specific to preseason. Because again, like you saw the units that were out there, who were the guys that were actually using possessions and taking possessions, right? You had DJ Wilson, Josh Jackson, Justin Champagnie, Dalano Banton using up all the possessions, right? When they were out there. Yeah. What do all those and Precious Achiuwa while he was out there for a bit, but then once they sat him, he was fine. All those guys have one thing in common. They're all fighting for the last couple of spots, right? Dalano Banton's obviously a lock. Justin Champagnie, we have no idea. His first 8 minutes that he's played. I personally hope he makes the team. And then DJ Wilson and Josh Jackson. The fact that those two guys are out there in the fourth quarter and they're using every possession. When you have Jeff Doughton out there, you have Gabe Brown out there. Other guys who we've seen in fourth quarters, do some things. Just as recently as the Boston game, right?
Yeah.
Clearly, it's like those guys were like, all right, these are guys who don't have contracts, trying to make the team. They're going to get the usage. They're going to get the plays. So you're seeing a lot of force plays from them. Again, who cares? It's preseason at the end of the day. But what I will say before we get there is third quarter, I just want to talk about Dalano Banton, how incredible he's been. And one of the biggest things I've seen with Dalano is in the half court, he is no longer turning his back to his defender when he's dribbling the ball. He's dribbling the ball straight up. He's not as worried about getting the ball stripped from him. And when his defender does push up and reach, Dalano is comfortable enough with his dribble to say, all right, no, I'm blowing by you. I'm getting to the paint. The man has one goal on offense every single time, and that is let me hit the paint and create motion. If I hit the paint, pass, reset it. There was one play in the third or fourth quarter. Delano catches it on the 45, beats his man, drives to the middle, kicks it out to the corner to OG Anunoby. OG Anunoby pump fakes a 3. Defense closes. They weren't perfectly spaced. Scotty was in the dunker, I think, or someone was in the dunker spot. There were 3 guys basically defending in the corner. So OG kicks it back out to Delano at the 45. Delano resets it, drives again. This time when he drives, I forget if he had a layup or if he had a dump off pass or something. They get something good out of it. That's, again, you want to see some half-court point guard skills? That's what Delano can do. Delano's really good at driving. He's really good at getting level. There was something Zach Lowe used to say about Brandon Ingram, who's another very long player, where it was like Brandon Ingram will trick defenders where when he's driving on you and you're shoulder to shoulder, as a defender, you think, all right, I'm even with the guy. But because Brandon Ingram's so long, all he does is extend his arm and he's at the rim. All he has to do. Yeah. So you're seeing that with Dalano Banton. How many times tonight was Alex Caruso shoulder to shoulder with him as he's driving by him, and then boom, Delano's at the rim. So just incredible to see Delano. He looks a lot stronger with the ball. When he's dribbling and driving, he's driving with the shoulders straight up, like he's not off balance at all. And those are all really positive things to do. Him being able to attack like that, it's a game changer for the Raptors in terms of having someone off the bench who can kind of do that. We're seeing, when you see those bench units come in, and it's preseason, so they're trying things out. But the 2 guys that you've seen kind of play make and attack from the 45 off the bench have been Precious Achiuwa and Dalano Banton. Precious, kind of iffy. Most of the time it's because he has a gap, so he's attacking the gap. using a hop step, drawing into and either throwing up a floater, throwing up a layup, or then making a pass out of it, right? Precious is a little bit more tunnel vision. Delano, though, done some great stuff off it. If he can keep playing with this type of aggression and that time of like I think I called him a homing missile towards the rim.
You did, and I laughed.
Directly going to the back of the rim every single time. That's all he's focused on. And, he's shown us a little bit of like, a step back midi from like 12, 14 feet as well. And a little floater in the paint. Those are all things that like, hey, if he can do that come regular season, that is a great punch off the bench that you can get. Also, love the pairing of Precious and Delano.
Yes.
Off the bench. There was one play in the second quarter, because they were going this way. Precious grabs the rebound, starts pushing it. Precious super fast. And Delano's already leaking and going. So Precious usually, when he runs with the ball, he just goes all the way because he's faster than everybody. Then at half court, he sees, Delano's already like 3/4 of the court down. Hits Delano on the leak. Delano finishes with the Euro layup left hand. I'm like, damn, that is pace. Like I think maybe 4 seconds off the shot clock, catching it from the rim and going. Incredible play to watch. Really enjoyed that. So yeah, by far, I think the highlights of the bench guys, Dalano Banton, by far. He's looked amazing and a lot of stuff that looks repeatable in an NBA setting.
Yeah, I mean, it also helps that the bench did struggle a lot in this game, but Dalano Banton, his game has taken, I think, a new level. I think his confidence has as well. We see in the offseason he played in that AmeriCup tournament. He did really well in it. I think he was named to the best 5. The best starting lineup or whatever. I don't know what they called it, but Dalano Banton played really well. And now we're seeing a new confidence. And we saw what the Raptors 905 tried to do last season, have him go down there in Mississauga, it's called Paramount Center, right? It's called just right across the
Paramount Fan Food Center.
Yeah, exactly. Right across the Osmos. They told him, go down there, shoot 15 threes, and then we'll get you back up here in a week. All right. Just keep doing that every game. And Delano, he's one of those guys just way in his first rookie season. He was just way too good for the G League. So the Raptors at that point probably knew they could do something with that. Had a very good offseason, like I said, in the AmeriCup. Confidence at an all-time high, comes into this Bulls game. Like you said, homing missile, downhill threat, just fits what the Raptors want to do. But the biggest question and what people have been I guess I don't want to say harping on him for, but it's been his biggest concern so far is how he would fit in the half court. I think most people believed said that he would have a role on this team in his second season, minimal, but he would have a role. He'd make the team. How big, Asad, and we don't want to overreact too much, but how big do you think his role can get? Because a lot of people love to kind of just focus on backup point guard, but the Raptors have 3 or 4 point guards in reality, maybe 4 or 5, to be honest. And they don't really kind of constrict themselves to these roles, right?
Yeah.
So Delano, for me, do you watch him and go, this guy could be a 10 to 15 minute guy for the Raptors this season?
Yeah, definitely. So like tonight was a good example because you had Chris Boucher out with a hamstring injury. Hopefully that doesn't take too long. But again, you have 2 guys that are going to be regular rotation guys that are out, and Otto Porter and Chris Boucher. So 2 out of your 9 main guys are out. With like, I would assume the core 6 plus Thad, Otto, and Boucher are usually what I see as being the 9 like stamped rotation guys. 2 of those 9 are out. That's probably what you're going to see in the regular season, right? Like any given day, there might be a guy resting, there might be a guy hurt. So 2 of your 9 might be gone. In that situation, first 4 guys off the bench, Juancho Hernan-Gomez, let's not talk about that.
Nope.
Thad Young, Dalano Banton, and Precious Achiuwa. Those are the 4 off the bench. And in that lineup, you saw Dalano Banton being one of the guys to push the pace. The fact of the matter is the way the Raptors team plays, offensive rebounds, pushing the pace. That's what they want to do, especially with the bench that really cuts down on how much half-court basketball they have to play, is getting on transition. So I think Delano definitely has a role because he's so good at that. Also, what I noticed Delano do today, he crashed the defensive glass a few times, also crashed the offensive glass. He had the one putback dunk or layup, I forget what it was, but where basically, like, if you look at Alex Caruso's face when Dalano Banton crashes as he's
Stop
going for
picking
the
on Alex Caruso, man. Leave him alone.
Well, that's the thing, right? Like, I don't want to pick on Alex Caruso, love him, but also that's his matchup, right? He's the one guarding Dalano Banton because Dalano Banton's the point guard in that lineup, and then you realize the dude's 6'9", long as hell, and those are the type of mismatches where, hey, if Dalano Banton's that quick and he's attacking the offensive glass and being boxed out by a little guard that's being put on him, those are advantages you can create, right? So I definitely think Dalano has a role. Even without the injuries, I think Dalano has a role where if the Raptors are I see Dalano as being a guy who can become a lead extender on the bench, right? Where you have a good lead and you know that, okay, I can grab the starters some rest here. You throw out Dalano Banton out there, maybe you go with an all bench lineup, right? Maybe iffy on that because who knows about the shooting. But hey, if Precious is having a good day, Boucher's having a good day, maybe you can go all bench. You have enough shooting there. And then Delano's a guy you can trust with extended minutes, right? 10, maybe 15 minutes. But I do like Delano's pace. It's also in a game where maybe Precious doesn't have it that day. He's making really bad offensive decisions. Or maybe Boucher doesn't have it that day. Or whatever. Thad Young is hesitating too much when he catches the ball at the 3-point line. Those are small things, right? Small gripes, but game to game, you might have fluctuation. That's where you can throw into Delano and be like, all right, push the pace. Or the Raptors are kind of exactly. Anytime you feel like the Raptors are getting bogged down, it's like Dalano Banton's your instant energy plug to kind of burst through, right?
Yeah. Dalano Banton is the Toronto Raptors Red Bull. I don't want to focus on this too much, Asad, but the bench did struggle in the second half in this game. Which it kind of flipped because in the preseason so far, it's kind of been the bench holding the Raptors up and the starters kind of looking out of sync a bit. But now we are a full 4 games in. The Raptors are 2-2. And for me, I look at this bench and I don't want to make, any sweeping generalizations just yet. But I think for me, at least, there are some guys that you could probably say are on the outside looking in for this bench, for this roster. Sorry, I should say. Like you said, Dalano Banton is a lock. Juan Hernan Gomez, I believe, does have a guaranteed contract. Obviously, Christian Koloko is a lock as well. Justin Champagnie, you're not 100% sure. But guys like Josh Jackson, Jeff Doughton, Ron Harper Jr., who's looking a lot like he's going to be that two-way guy for the Raptors. What do you think about guys like Josh Jackson, Gabe Brown, Jeff Doughton? Do you think any of them kind of sealed their fate tonight with their performance? Or
well, I think the two-way guys are the two-way guys. I don't know about Ron Harper Jr. I'd assume they brought him in. They're going to keep him as a two-way guy. I think Jeff Doughton, he's going to be a two-way guy this season. He might see some minutes if the Raptors, have a couple of, outages, have a couple of injuries. You can see him being pulled up. I think he's definitely going to be in the system though. In terms of Josh Jackson, I got to be honest with you. I think yes, his athleticism is, very electric and it's eye popping to see. But then the man get to the spot and a lot of times that shot's not going in. There's one point in this game where I'm just like, man, I get that Josh Jackson's open in the corner for 3, but also you get to a certain point where that's a turnover. So if you pass it to him because it's a missed shot. And I think, all to Josh Jackson, I'm sure that he can be a helpful part of a team. I don't know if we need him on this team. And it's he has to be playing his best game to even get any minutes on the court, right? So his average game probably isn't going to be good enough. I personally don't think I would see him on the team past training camp. DJ Wilson is a guy I personally think I wanted on the team being in that last spot over a Juancho Hernan Gomez. Personally, I just think DJ Wilson gives you something more dynamic than Hernan Gomez does, who just gives you one element, which is just, take a catch and shoot 3. And hey, if he shoots at 40%, that's incredible. But if he's shooting 1 for 3 on wide open looks every night, that's an issue, right? I think the other night in Houston, it was within 3 minutes against Houston where he had 3 straight looks from the right wing, wide open, nobody near him. And he went 1 for 3 on those looks. And I'm just like, man, when you're the spot, your only role is to be a specialty shooter and you're not making those shots, it becomes iffy, right? It's not like he's giving you anything special on the defensive end. He's not giving you plus rebounding or anything like that.
I mean, that's why Matt Thomas stayed on the team for so long, right? He just did his job. He came in. They're like, hey, just hit the open 3, and he was doing it.
If Matt Thomas was 2 or 3 inches taller, he would have stayed on the team. Unfortunately, he basically could only shoot the ball, get a shot off if he was wide open. Otherwise, he had to pump and go. But yeah, so the end of the bench guys, I think I personally would like to see it being Juancho and Josh Jackson get cut, and then you get Champagnie, Banton, and DJ Wilson in those final 3 spots. I can see Wilson and Juancho being the flip there. I think the Raptors might keep Juancho just because it's shooting and the specter of, space. But I would like to go back and look at the footage and see how how much respect teams' defenses actually give Juancho Hernan-Gomez, because I have a sneaky suspicion that he's been left wide open. And if if he's hitting them, that's great. But if you're not even getting like the respect from another team's defense, then the only spacing you're really giving is by actually hitting the shot. Otherwise, you're just making it harder for people to operate. So
true.
That's my only thought there.
Unless you watch the movie Hustle, because if you watch the movie Hustle, you're not leaving Bo Cruz open. People are already making those jokes as they're watching this live. And for our podcast listeners, if you haven't watched Hustle with Adam Sandler and Bo Cruz, otherwise known as Juancho Hernan-Gomez, watch it because it's a very, very good movie. Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. I mean, if you leave him open all season, because at this point, most Raptors fans would probably agree, analysts, writers would probably agree, he's going to be on the team. And there's going to be moments where he gets those minutes. And if Nick Nurse goes, you know what, Juancho, I'm going to play you 6 minutes tonight, and you're probably going to get 2 wide open looks or 3 wide open looks, and he hits one of those 3, then, like you said, we're going to have issues if that keeps happening, right? But if he doesn't, and he just becomes that specialty shooter, he's going to stick. I mean, that's just how it goes with the nature of the Raptors. It's such a competitive roster. Pascal, OG, Scotty, Fred, Gary, that's 5, and then you have Thad, Precious. That's 7 already. Delano's been playing really well this offseason. That's 8. You have Christian Koloko, who's 9. Kem Birch, 10. It's tough. Like, those are already 10 guys.
And you didn't even mention Otto and Boucher in there.
So that's
Otto 12. You're 12 deep, right? Like, you're 12 deep, and then if, like, Malachi was playing well, too, like, the thing is, like, you got your core 9, right? You got the core 6. Then you get Thad, Boucher, Otto. That's 9. Then you have Kem Birch, Delano, Malachi. That's 12. So at that point, there's no real minutes to actually go around. So any of the last 3 guys are really just injury replacements. So the way I look at it, Justin Champagny, he's a change of pace guy that can get you offensive rebounds. He's a spark plug type player, right? If you're having a low game, you throw Justin Champagny in there, you know he's going to get on the glass, you know he's going to do some things. Maybe change the energy of a lineup, right, for 5 to 10 minutes. DJ Wilson, I look at him as being like, he can basically be a, bootleg Kem, a bootleg Thad, a bootleg Chris Boucher for like 5 to 10 minutes in a game, right? Like literally just a backup for those guys as an injury replacement. And then your third guy, who would be the 15th guy, is Christian Koloko. Christian Koloko is, again, your specialty big, right? Like development piece, he's your rookie. We're going to build him. Also, Christian Koloko, I just want to say, like, he played a little bit today. On offense, had no idea where he had to be. He just ran to the dunker spot. He's lost. Like, am I in the right dunker spot or am I in the wrong dunker spot? What side am I supposed to be on? Very much lost, but hey, it's fine. I think that unit, that was where Scotty got hurt early in the third quarter, where he just kind of went out for a little bit. And they put Christian Koloko in there with the starters, and that didn't go all that well. And you can look at the starters and blame the starters for that, but if you just watch how the offense was running, Koloko was kind of late to whatever spot he was supposed to be by like not 1 step, but like 2 steps, 3 steps late. There's one where the play broke down. OG Anunoby drives, draws all 3 defenders to him. The baseline cut is open. Christian Koloko is 2 steps late to that baseline cut, doesn't fully commit. OG throws the pass, expecting him to be there. He's not there as a turnover. So, or it might have just gone out of bounds.
It's the little things he has to learn.
Well, these are the little things, right? Like, those are things that are going to come with experience. But again, long way away from playing big minutes for the club. But he looked pretty good defensively. He had a block, did some decent stuff in drop coverage, was able to switch freely. Again, Koloko moves pretty well. So I'm still very high on him. Someone just said Koloko over under 60 games played. Bro, you could make that 6 games played, to be honest with you. Yeah. But
are we talking 905 or are we talking what are we doing here?
Yeah. If you're saying career, I think he's definitely going to play more than 60 games in his NBA career, though.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, we look at Christian Koloko. I mean, we're excited for him. The flashes are there. Whenever you can get a guy, in that late first round, early second round area, all you really want is just flashes. Yeah. Can this guy do one thing really, really, really well, and then can we just develop the rest? If you remember us when we traded for, I think it was to the Milwaukee Bucks, we traded Grievous Vasquez for Norman Powell, if I'm not mistaken. Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. So we traded Norman, and he was just, at that point, just an athletic specimen in the second round. There wasn't much. There's quite a bit of fine-tuning the Raptors had to do. He had absolutely no shot. You look back now, I was looking at his stats a couple of days ago. Norman Powell is almost, I believe, a career 40% three-point shooter. He's in that range now. shout out to the Raptors development staff, because that I would have never thought in a million years after watching his rookie year that this guy would be a career 38 to 42% 3-point shooter. I'm
also
looking
just
forward.
quick on Norm Powell. I just want to say this.
Yeah.
Norm Powell is not only a 40% 3-point shooter, but he's a 40% two motion 3-point shooter. The fact that he's a two, because he jumps so high on his shot, I can't believe that he has a two motion 3-point shot in this day and age. Because almost everyone's a one motion shooter, right? Because that's a easier way to shoot the three ball. You get more power. It's more consistent. Two motion is insane. Shout out Norm Powell, bro.
Yeah, I mean, it might become one motion once he starts growing and those legs start getting a bit older. But you never know. Norm Powell, I believed in his work ethic so much. I remember when we first traded him. Now we're going into Norm Powell lore here with the Raptors. But really quick to end off on Norm Powell, when we first traded for him, I remember nonstop the Raptors players couldn't stop talking about his work ethic, and I was like, you know what? I think the Raptors got a pretty good role player out of this. He's never going to be a starter. He might be a pretty good role player. And here we are. Guy's probably going to be starting on the Clippers this year, who might just be the 1, 2, or 3 seed in the West. So, Asad, is there anything else you want to kind of end off on? I know.
There's only one thing I want to talk about. We were only talking about one Bulls player and DeMar DeRozan. There is one. I just want to talk about the fourth quarter again.
I know
because Javonte Green gave us the business. First of all, he is my favorite Bulls player. Every time we played the Bulls, last year, I'm just watching Javonte Green. I'm like, man, I love this guy. He is your prototypical perfect role player. The 3-point shot may be iffy, I think, year to year. I don't know what his numbers are. I looked at them a while ago, but the guy is stout defensively, PJ Tucker type build. Today he showed off quite a bit of athleticism. Those dunks were crazy. Taking people off the dribble is insane. Javonte Green, again, complete journeyman through his career. I think he played in Europe for a bit, China a bit. I don't remember. He's played abroad. I think he's 27, or I feel like I'm right on that. I think he's in his late 20s or whatever. But really hope that guy, I think that guy's going to have a long NBA career, because he plays playoff role player level. He's a playoff caliber role player. Love his game entirely, and he just showed out today. He took the Raptors to work, which is quite funny. But love Javonte Green. Just wanted to give him a quick shout out. Also, I know a lot of people talking about backup point guard or whatever. Shout out to you, Sahal, getting back out there, working out. Good to see Shelvin Mack making a comeback. Maybe he can run backup point for the Raptors at one point. We'll see how it goes. Otherwise, in terms of that's all I got to say in terms of things to plug or anything like that. Follow me on Twitter. I am public now, so you can follow me on Twitter at @SwarLasers. Yeah, I took it off private.
Hey, that's what I'm talking about. Finally, took you long enough.
You get off probation, you can do that. It's all good, right?
Yeah, I hear you.
But yeah, so yeah, shoot me a follow at @SwarLasers. I might do it. I might follow through. I might not. I'm doing unstructured Raptors content, just in blog form. So I'll post it here and there. It's kind of more notebook style. So I did one quick thing that was just talking about the Raptors starters, rotation, what the minutes are going to look like, and kind of just what the thought process is. My thought process is between Gary or Precious starting. Personally, I'm still I think Gary should still start. So if you disagree with me, go give it a read and yell at me. I'll be happy to hear you guys out. And then call you guys out for being stupid, but it's fine. Yeah, that's all I got right now.
I'm with you. Before you guys leave us tonight, we need you to subscribe to the Raptors Republic YouTube as well as our podcast channel. This was the wrap up your official Raptors Republic post-game live show where your Toronto Raptors were defeated by the Chicago Bulls, and our hero DeMar DeRozan 115-98, bringing the Raptors record to 2-2 in the preseason. The last preseason game is Friday. I believe it's in Montreal versus the Boston Celtics. The live show was not produced by Keon Haddad. It was produced by myself. When Keon's here, you guys are going to see a lot more clips, a lot more funny tweets on Twitter. You might see Asad's tweets here. But that was it for myself, Sahal Abdi, again here with my guest, Asad Alvi. We'll hopefully see you guys Friday night. I believe it should be myself, Oren, and maybe a couple others there, but it should be fun. I'm looking forward to it. Last preseason game, and it's versus Boston in Montreal. If you live in Montreal and you're listening or watching this, let us know if you're going to make the game. Tweet us at Raptors Republic. Tweet me, Sahal Abdi. Tweet SwarLasers. We're all going to be watching that game. It should be really fun. Take care, guys.
Just a quick shout out before you call it. Shout out Adam O in the chat. He said he liked and subscribed. I want to see everybody else liking and subscribing. My man Sahal has been working great. Everybody on Wrap Up Live has been great. It's a great show they're putting together for everybody. So give it a like, subscribe, and follow Wrap Up Live all year. This is the place to be live post games. All right. And I want to see everybody back here again throughout the season. All right.
Take care.